Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do a review of the Meze Alba and to go from there. This is going to be a short review, yeah, usually when it's a short review it means I didn't really care much for it. But yeah, okay, so I'm just going to go put the notes on the screen so you guys can take a look and just skip out if you want. And now I'm just going to give you a quick overview, some information you need to know, and just get right to the point. Okay, these have incredible comfort. So if you want something that's really comfortable, these are really great for that. In my opinion, the vocals on this are a little thinner. Like I wouldn't call it thin. It's just a little thinner. Like I would say like maybe about, like male vocals are slightly thinner and then female vocals are slightly thinner. That's when I've done some extensive tests on this. I also think this actually is, it's a tough area where I feel like, I wouldn't say it's unfair value, but I would say there are IEMs at the same price that destroy this. And I will go ahead and explain this. The Cranier Daybreak at the same price is a better IEM than this. The Swan NV at half the price is a better IEM than this. The Zigot Lush at the same price is a better IEM than this. The Defiant at half the price is a better IEM than this. The Truthier Pure at $80 is a better IEM than this, if not on par. The Duna Kima 2 cheaper is a far better IEM than this. And the other thing I want to say is at a far more cheaper price, the Tongzu Swanner Studio Edition at $20. Honestly, when I was doing them side by side and doing A/B comparisons, is actually on par, if not better. And I challenge you to buy the Tongzu Swanner Studio Edition and to A/B it with this and tell me honestly if you think this is that much better than this. But I will tell you with 100% certainty that these are better than this at a cheaper or the same price. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what I think this sounds like. So this basically is in my opinion, a W-shaped IEM. It kind of is like the Sennheiser IE200 in that basically the bass is, now it's really strange because the bass is inconsistent on this. Like it sounds at times that it has impact, but then at other times it sounds soft and it just sounds weaker at times. So like you'll look at my notes in the beginning, I'm like, dude, the bass is on point. But then later on, I'm like, wait, that rap section sounds like really weak. So it's almost like some parts have impact and bass, and sometimes it's just weaker. And that's a huge contrast from these other IEMs I've listed, which have more power with the bass. The other thing too, as I mentioned, is that vocals are a little bit thinner on here. Like I noticed Justin's voice is about 10% thinner. Chris's voice is about 10% thinner. So male vocals in particular are a little bit thinner. But the other thing I want to say as a plus is that this is actually pretty good with sibilants. Now, I do recommend using, don't use the stock ear tips. Instead, use the Kiwi Ears Flex or some other ear tips, the Pinon Lickers, I would say the Final Audio Ease or whatever, or even foam ear tips, which will help a little bit with that sibilance. But basically what I found was that when I would go through all the sibilance tests, it was 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 at regular volume. But then when you go to very high volume, then it would still be 0 sometimes. Zeros, but then on certain ones, you know, like Drake in particular would get really high.
I still got scores to settle, man. I crept 767, man. This shit got.
But even on the Mariah Carey was like 0. So okay. So that being said, what would I call this, right? So I think kind of like the Sennheiser IE200, where it's like the bass is not as impactful, but it sometimes comes through, but it's not consistent. But sometimes the bass can come a little soft, is what I would say. And then the mids, in terms of male and female vocals, it's like, I would say around 10% thinner, at least to me. I've heard that these vocals right here definitely have much fuller mids. In other words, these will have male and female vocals will be much more full on these, and these are cheaper than this. And then I would say on the treble side, I find that I don't find it sibilant actually. Like I said, I know I was reading and watching other reviews, and they were saying that this can get spicy, but like I said, when I did pretty extensive sibilance tests on here.
Mike Tyson is called the baddest man on the planet.
Business conference. $100. The C214. Gotta go somewhere, so can we make this quick?
And it was all 0 at regular volume. You will only get harsh if you go 25% above safe volume. So when I'm saying regular volume, this is like typically where I actually listen. But what I do is I crank it just to see and I listen to it just for a little bit. I might be bad for my ears, but I just do it. But it's pretty much like almost zero, but then there's a few high on only the egregious ones. So this is pretty good at dealing with sibilance. Overall, the sound signature, I would say, it's kind of like whatever people call the Sennheiser IE200 is what I would call this. In other words, this is not a flat out V-shaped. It's more like a maybe like a W shape, and because the sibilance is dipped down by quite a bit. And what I found is things that are dipped that much down, like this is actually dipped down the same way too. Well, if it's dipped down, something's dipped down, right? Then that's a W shape, right? So this has to be a W shape. But I would say in general, it's also in this weird zone where I've read reports saying that this might be neutral warm. No, it's not, because there are other IMs here that I would most definitely say are warmer. The Truthier Pure is without a doubt warmer than this. The Kima 2 is definitely warmer than this. The Zigot Lush is warmer than this. So it's not a warm IM, but it's definitely not a bright IM. It's kind of in the same league, as I said, with the Sennheiser IE200, where it's almost like, I know that people are going to trash me on this, but hear me out. It's like this weird area where it's V-shaped, but kind of neutral at the same time. Because it's kind of like, because the Sennheiser IE200 doesn't belong in the bright box, but the Sennheiser IE200 doesn't belong in the warm box. But then the Sennheiser IE200 is certainly not neutral, but it belongs here. But it's V-shaped here. It's kind of like almost like it's V-shaped in the middle zone, in the neutral zone. In other words, it's not really bright, okay? It's not in the warm side, it's more here. And this is kind of the same thing too, where it's kind of like it's it's not really super warm or not super bright, but it's a little bit of a W shape here going on. That's how I describe it. So yeah, that's all I can say, and you guys have a great day.